Welcome to Freshman Podcast, our first ever episode in this format. If it feels like you have joined an informal discussion as a third party, that's exactly what we want. My name is Valera. I am the founder of Freshman Academy. We try to contribute to the development of the junior generation of business people, of scientists, of artists. And today we have someone, a very, very special guest, someone who is the representative of this new generation, Amirbek. Amirbek is a 16-year-old who's coming from a public school in Bukhara and who got admitted to Stanford, the first one from Uzbekistan to ever do it with a full ride scholarship. On top of that, Amirbek got admitted to Caltech, Brown, Swarthmore, Washley, and Minerva, of course. And today we will go through a couple of topics that might be related to admissions and might not be related to admissions. And we'll talk about science, we'll talk about life in Bukhara. Amirbek, welcome.
Yep, hello, nice to be here. I am really excited to talk about science and life in Bukhara and a little bit about my admission journey.
Awesome. So, Amirbek, you have lived in Tashkent for the past 2 weeks, and then you have been based in our office. And it's so interesting because I come here in the morning and you're here going through some papers, and sometimes you're here till midnight and you're still doing the same. And you have a couple of screens, and then you're always reading something and very much in the material. What drives you?
I would say just that since I was a kid, I was always interested in science and STEM. And I was interested in science through the cartoons like Rick and Morty, Gravity Falls, and all sorts of cartoons. And later, when I found out that this is exactly what I want to do, I just decided to pursue it in the highest level possible, right? Because I really like it and I really enjoy doing that. And I think that if I keep doing that, if I keep engaging in the material, within my field, right, then I think that in the future I would become professional and I would achieve the goals that I set out for myself, such as building the fusion company. The nuclear fusion company. Yeah. It sounds very pipe dreamical, but Stanford was also a pipe dream for me some time ago, right? And getting to Nesvanov was also a pipe dream for me some time ago. Yeah. But it's no longer that. And I think that perhaps my plans might change over the course of my gap year, right? But so far, this is my plan, to build a fusion company and be a unicorn company.
Okay. I think anything that you put your mind to, and we've seen it, right? You just keep working and without expectations, and then you keep achieving stuff, which is very commendable and incredible. I would want to go a little bit deeper into your research.
Sure.
Because at the age of 15, you made a mini discovery in the field of theoretical mathematics. And I hope that we'll not be losing any of our audience if we go in there.
Yeah,
because when you shared it to me, I thought that you're that it was a bunch of nonsense. I had to basically, Google stuff and ChatGPT stuff to understand what you're talking about. Can you tell us more about what the research is about?
Research?
And I know it would be difficult to understand, but give us a shot.
So I'll be as clear as possible. First of all, I have to make sure that you understand that it is research in the knot theory. Knot theory is a branch of mathematics. We study knots, literally knots, like shoelaces, right? And these are the knots, and we study different sorts of knots. Basically, the idea of the knot theory is to distinguish between knots in mathematical way, right? So let's say you have a shoelace, right, which is connected in both ends, and it's just a circle. It's a trivial knot, the simplest knot possible. When you, add more crossings, right, when you make it more complex, as you increase the number of crossings, the shoelace gets much more complicated, right? Imagine if you have a million different crossings, right? How you're able to represent it on the piece of paper using X, Y's, and Z's and numbers. This is what knot theory actually studies. My research was more like a continuation of my professor's research. My professor's name is Vladimir Chernov, who's a professor of mathematics at Dartmouth College, and he has been studying there. He's been teaching students there for the last decades, right? And he and his teacher assistant, who was a Dr. Ryan McGuire from MIT, they both taught seminars in knot theory, and later I wrote research that continued his primary work, right? So to tell a little bit about the research itself, basically it was also an intersection of astrophysics and topology, right? So there's one big problem in the astrophysics. How you're able to know whether two events are connected or not. So let's say you got an event A, and then you got an event B. Very, very abstract and very arbitrary terms for you. But how you're able to distinguish whether event A caused event B, or whether they're two absolutely unrelated events. This is what we study in astrophysics. This is a kind of a problem for us. And the work of Professor Chernov was to distinguish those two different cases, whether event A is connected to event B, or whether they're two completely unrelated events. And he used knot theory, like literally knots, threads, to do that. So
what was your contribution?
Yes, I'm just going to that. There's just a lot to talk about.
Yeah,
Imagine you have now a bowl of like spaghetti.
Yeah.
This is like those individual noodles, they represent two different events. They basically represent events. And in a bowl of spaghetti, they're all tangled. And if you take two different ends of a noodle, how you're able to tell whether those two ends belong to the same noodle? You see the idea? You know what I mean,
sure.
right? That event A goes to event B, right? Or whether there are two completely different noodles. And using the mathematical, let's put it this mathematical structure, right? A tool called the quandles, right? We're able to, we are able to utilize them to distinguish those two different cases. And there are many different types of quandles. We have a conjugation quandle, we have a symplectic quandle, all sorts of it sounds like cursings, right, from some different language. But generally they are different mathematical tools. And the symplectic quandle is one of the very few quandles which actually are able to be useful in distinguishing those two cases. There were some different people, different researchers within the same program who studied different quandles, right? But they weren't successful at it.
Yeah.
And my quandle, symplectic quandle, isn't necessarily mine. So it was studied before by a current Princeton student, Ayush Jain, who is an Indian researcher, and he discovered that symplectic quandles are able to distinguish between those two cases. My contribution was to analyze the symplectic quandle with different initial variables, basically. So like in different vector fields. So those who understand are going to understand it. We're the only people who actually worked with the quandles which were actually successful, right? And after that, I don't actually know other guys who did that. But I would say that it's calling it a mini discovery is maybe a little bit of an over-exaggeration. It's more like adding new thing to the research, right? To the field.
Which research
Which
is
is,
all
yeah,
about,
exactly.
right?
This research is adding new things. So I think that calling my research like a breakthrough, even though my professor calls it a breakthrough, it's more like a mini breakthrough within the very, very niche subject.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And what I basically did was the spaghetti analogies. What if you increase the entangledness, like the more noodles are entangled between each other? For example, you got two noodles, right? They might be very, very close to each other, but they might not be related. They might be from two different noodles, right? So you might have two different ends of the same noodle on different sides of a bowl. This is essentially one of the applications of knot theory in the theoretical realm of physics. But we are also seeing that we're able to use the knot theory in biology, in manipulating the DNA structure, because DNA, right, or anything basically small enough that are within our body, they're also threads which are entangled between each other. And we're also able to use the concepts from the knot theory to work with the DNA, right? This is one of the applications of knot theory again. One of the applications of knot theory that I personally see is in the nuclear fusion reactors. It's a novel thing. This is exactly why I studied knot theory. It's not that, it was fun and I studied, but who studies knot theory for fun? That's a crazy person. There's a certain reason why I did that. And I would like to talk more about it, but you can move on with your questions.
Just to summarize, so essentially knot theory shows the relationship between different events using knots, and it's incredibly complicated because I've seen your paper, and I know there's a lot of mathematics to it. And the fact that you can explain it so simply to just the regular people,
to some extent,
to intellectual peasants like myself,
that's
truly awesome. And obviously it's a breakthrough given also your age at the time. And a big lesson, also something that we learned from this is that we need to identify gaps in research, right? So something
sure.
that has already been researched and you're just doing very, very similar stuff, that is not really adding much to science, but then even a small contribution, that's how science is built. So to all of our viewers, and I guess we lost like half of them already with the theoretical discussion that we had, but to those who are still here, that's a big, big lesson. And someone who was guiding students for a while now, I would say that ability to identify gaps is also incredibly important when you do projects, right? When you look into what's out there and then what is lacking and how you can contribute. And you contributed in your own way because you had this physics club / social project that you did. Can you tell us more about it?
About the Silk Orbit, right?
Yes, exactly.
So essentially, Bukhara, right? It used to be like a hub of knowledge, a hub of scientists, right? Like Al-Bukhari is from Bukhara, essentially. I would say, and all sorts of different scholars, they come from Bukhara. But unfortunately, these days, Bukhara is known as a relic, as an artifact. Right? Like when you go to Bukhara, you're like, oh, it used to be great. I don't like this word used to be because I see a lot of tourists in my museum. They're like, oh, Bukhara used to be such a great city. It was the center. It was hub. This is the word that I don't like. People use it in the past tense because, well, there are a lot of different kids who are extremely smart. My classmates, right? A lot of different kids, right? They pop out from different places from Bukhara. Very smart. The only thing that we lack are the resources, right? Because, well, obviously we don't have nuclear reactors in Bukhara. We don't have them in Uzbekistan. The closest one is like oceans away. And given that, many people who are interested in nuclear physics are just demotivated, right? Because there are no resources, so why should they even pursue that, right? But what if you study, right, at least on a theoretical basis, get into a top school and bring innovation to Bukhara back? Right? This is something that I've been motivated by like my entire life for the last 3 years, right? And through the project of Silk Orbit, I was trying to attract more people, more Bukharian, future scientists, right? To also join this. I would call it even more like I would say movement. I would say, right? Like guys who want to bring innovation back to Bukhara, because a lot of them, they're like, oh, I'm just gonna leave Bukhara, I'm never gonna come back, which is not a nice thing to say about your hometown, because Bukhara has a very rich history, and I would like to revive this culture of scientific inquiry, right? I organize events. I had many different people, reaching out to me, a lot of different kids who want to actually pursue the thing that I'm pursuing, like the guys who want to study maths, right? They want to study maths abroad and then come back and then develop this culture of, again, scientific inquiry, right? It's still a project which is developing, and I'm currently running it still. It's just that there is so much that I want to do with this project over the course of my gap year as well.
Something to note here is that even though you're very globally minded, at the same time, you're very patriotic and you care about the locality, you care about people on the ground. And I think this is exactly something that universities are looking for. And I'm sure that a lot of our viewers today, they would want to hear more about your SAT, your APs,
No
and all of that. We of course can touch on it, but this is almost secondary, right? This is not really something that unites different cases, because we had people who got admitted with different IELTS, different SATs, but this is something that unites a lot of them, which is you care about your locality, you're rooted in the place, and you contribute to it, which is incredible. When you talk about that community of people just like yourself, and at Freshman we also have it, and
Yes.
there is a word in post-Soviet space that I really like, which is the word nefer. Sort of, it's non-conformist, the person who does not fit sort of the general idea of how people are supposed to look, and sort of they're not normal in that sort of classic sense, and people who are different. And at Freshman, I hope that we have a lot of nefers. We have a lot of people who think different. I would say like all of us are, nefers in different ways, and we're definitely, a lot of us are nerds. And my question, and we talked about it before our meeting, and talking about sort of nerds as a group of people. Like, do you think you are a nerd? And
I'm a big time nerd. I'm a very big time nerd.
What's your definition of a nerd?
I would say nerd is someone who is obsessed about a certain topic in a sense which is different from other people obsessing about the same topic. You might be interested in math, but you might not be nerd in math, right? Not everyone who's interested in nuclear physics is nerd in nuclear physics, right? There could be a lot of people who know nuclear physics just to hold conversations, but there are people who go so deep into it they just get lost and their life just changes because of it. Like, for example, if you're interested in something very trivial, maybe anime, right? And you watch so many different animes that your mindset, like, it shifts towards anime. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the more you watch anime, the more you become an
You're
anime
captured
kid.
by it, basically.
Yes, the same is true for all different sorts of things. It could be, again, physics, right? You might be doing so much physics that your mind already shifts toward physics, right? I would say I'm a nerd of the nerds. I like calling myself nerd, right? I mean, why not? I mean, what's the problem with it? And Nefer is probably something that is derived from being a nerd because usually nerds are Nefers, right? It is. It's.
I mean, not all Nefers are nerds, but
But all nerds,
nerds
are
are
Nefers.
Nefers, for
I
sure.
would say for sure. Yeah.
They give me a quote. They give me a quote from. Yeah.
Nerds are like are like subcategory of Nefers.
Nefer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. And and then as I said, like you might be interested in physics, but you might not be nerd in physics. Your life, your mindset, your worldview shift towards being a. For example, you're a nerd in admissions. Your life shifted towards being an admissions guy, right? Towards admissions somehow, or like to other things.
Not, yeah,
or like,
hopefully not. Like, I mean, admissions for me, I would say it's a stage of life. I just really enjoy mentoring and guiding people. But hopefully, let's say in 10 years, I will not be doing. I will go more into research. I'm a nerd in political science. I'm a nerd in, say, sociology, philosophy,
or wrestling.
Or wrestling as well. Yeah, exactly. I think I studied philosophy. I think to be a true philosopher, you need to be ready to like get punched in the face. That's one of my sort of credos in life because you're standing for some ideas, and sometimes those ideas, might not be palatable to some people. So incredible. But when you're a nerd, in many cases, you will clash with the society that oftentimes, and I would imagine the society in Bukhara and Samarkand, they're very traditional, very conservative in many ways societies that, have certain ways of going about things. And there's this, and of course, like during the time when I was growing up, I went to the College of Light Industry and Economy in Samarkand, and there was this really interesting culture, sort of. Like I wouldn't call it street culture. It was obviously not 90s anymore, but there was still like a little aspect of that. So did you have any social challenges because you were a nerd, and because like basically you were so, like you said, you captured by physics?
I would say I still have. Bullies are everywhere. They are present in every single society, in every single community. You need to have a bully to actually have a diverse community. You need cognitive diversity. You need physical diversity. I would say that in Bukhara there wasn't present that kind of diversity. All of them were bullies. The problem is that when you are progressive in a very conservative society, the conservative people, they want you to be conservative as well, right? Because in Bukhara we have this very unpleasant trade of like kind of demeaning someone, like diminishing someone, right? Whenever we see someone succeeding, it's more like bringing them down to earth. This is, but like in a negative way, right?
Yeah. Okay. Let me comment here. Amirbek. I saw you interact with your friends, and then you're an extremely confident person, like almost to the point where we're joking a lot about it. When you get admitted to like Stanford and everything, you get all of the scholarships, right? And it might be the euphoria that you get from it, like, can be overwhelming. Like, don't you think that?
But at the same time,
sometimes you need those friends, right? Who will be sort of bringing you to earth sometimes.
That's why I don't complain. It's more like, but before I got into Stanford, before I got SAT, before I got IELTS. Right?
But it's not like you were succeeding as well, right? So it was not like people were quote unquote attacking you because you were successful, but because you were different, right?
Different.
And I think that the real question here is like, how do you remain and you preserve it? Because there are ways of being different where society pressuring on you might be helpful. Let's say if you have some unhealthy habits, right? And then our society is very intrusive, right? And I'll just tell a little bit of my background. Was born in Samarkand, lived for 8 years in Singapore, and something that I noticed there is that a lot of my friends were very non-intrusive. they would not give you advice, and sometimes where you need to hear advice. They would want you to arrive at your own decisions, and they respect your individuality. And I think that's a great way of going about things. But at the same time, my friends here in Uzbekistan, oftentimes, if they see me going on a wrong path, for example, right? And I mean, there are no objectively wrong paths, but there are some ways in which you can act, suboptimally. Let's put it this way.
Auto behavior.
Yeah. And then sometimes that pressure is important. Like, don't you agree?
I definitely agree with you, but again, the way you communicate with a person is also very important. For example, Nigel, right? He's been a great life mentor so far.
Yeah.
Because the way he
maybe we'll tell the audience who Nigel is.
Yeah, Nigel is a director of Freshman Institute, and is a Singaporean who studied in Russian university and then studied masters in Georgetown.
I mean, it's one way of calling GIMO a Russian university. I mean, it's a really special, university in GIMO. So he was the first Singaporean to graduate from GIMO. Then he did Georgetown masters. He's writing articles for the Diplomat, the Washington Post. He's a freelance author. He advised U.S. policy on nuclear. He was involved in the think tank, and then he decided to relocate to Tashkent and to learn Uzbek. And he's a big fan of Central Asia. So it's interesting because Nigel is 26 and you are 16.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see you guys interact because you're coming from different geographical locations, different generations. And
we are very good friends, actually.
So another thing which is going back to traditional culture, right?
Yep.
You're coming from a family of craftspeople.
Yep.
As eighth generation, your grandfather's museum is at the center.
Right?
I've been there with my friends, and your grandfather treated us really well. He showed us the craft that he has developed for decades. And for those people who might not know, in the Druzhba Narodov, which is a concert hall, and I don't even know how to... the curtain basically there, right? They were sewn by your grandfather.
Yes, 30 years ago.
And the dimensions are, something...
90 by 20, I guess?
Yeah. 90 meters by
20 meters.
Yeah, it's super impressive, and that was in the 80s, right?
It was in the 80s. It was his first mega project.
Yes.
And after that, he was involved in many mega projects after that. And one interesting thing I want to say is that for the last 30-40 years, he's participated in all of every single year. He participates in at least 1 or 2 festivals, international craftsman festivals.
Yeah.
For the last 40 years, he hasn't lost once. He got 40 different gold medals.
Yeah.
And this is someone I should look up to, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, that confidence, it's a family trait, for sure. And it's incredible. And I think that's also part of the power that you hold, the power to just go to a field that you might not be familiar with and be really confident that you'll be able to have the skills to understand it. And of course, you have those examples, in your family. Yep. This is not something that you chose, right? You were born into this family.
I was born into this.
And this is a major advantage also in admissions.
For sure.
And I guess, would you say that one of the lessons in admissions is that there are a lot of things in which you can be well positioned that are actually not connected to your choices? And it's just something that you were lucky.
Exactly. I would definitely believe this because in my case, I was born already with a set of I would call it set of different materials, different resources. And I just effectively utilize those resources. Some people are born with even more resources than me, but not able to effectively use them. And there are people who are not born with resources at all. So they have to create those resources. Yeah. I would say in my case, with the cultural side, I had a lot of resources, but from the scientific side, I didn't have any resources.
No, but then you mentioned that you were mentored by a Dartmouth's professor.
Well, this is something I...
Can you tell us more about how you gained those resources?
For sure. Should I start with the MIT professor? Or
sure. I guess just in general. Let's say I'm a high school right now somewhere in Uzbekistan, in a public school, right? I don't have access to those sources. Sure. What do I do?
So back in... let me just tell you about my journey in the research. I joined the research community, or just I began with the research back in 9th grade. It was 2024. I was 14, and I already had this thought implanted into my mind that okay, I need to do research. And then I just started the subject that I really liked, which was nuclear physics, nuclear science. And on the YouTube, I found this professor, Michael Short. Professor Michael Short is a professor at MIT of nuclear science and technology. He teaches there for 15 years. And he's very much connected with Uzbekistan. Now, I watched his course. I really liked it because it was very conceptually heavy and not mathematically heavy. He was trying to explain nuclear science to kids, and even I understood it. If I understand it, then other kids are also able to do that. And I just liked him so much that I just emailed him. I said, "Hey, Professor Short, I'm this kid in this place in Bukhara. I want to do research in nuclear physics in the future. Please mentor me." Or it wasn't really please mentor me. It was more like, can we hold conversations maybe every month or so, like every 2 weeks. I'll be sending you updates, anything that I learned. And then when he saw my message, he said, "Sure, let's do that." And now, interesting thing here is that I was lucky to email exactly him because he's very connected to Uzbekistan since he works with Professor Akmal Safarov at Samarkand. And he basically donated, not even donated, there's sort of a contract between MIT and the Samarkand Nuclear Institute of Technology where MIT equipment was shipped to Samarkand.
For real?
Yes, and then Professor Michael Shor visits Bukhara every once in a while.
So when you said that Professor Short is connected to Uzbekistan, he was connected before he got to know you, or?
Yeah, he was connected for like many different years, many years, and many professors from Samarkand, not many, maybe like a couple. They went to MIT and they worked there, and I was so lucky to email exactly him. And
did you know about that connection before?
No idea, absolutely no idea. I just emailed him.
So again, it was like
exactly.
sort of luck as well.
It was sort of luck as well, and then like for some time, I've been sending him my articles, like at different drafts of my articles, and he's been like reviewing them, connecting me with his PhD students. I was having conversation with them as well. And then when he saw my article, which it was my very first article, honestly. It was called "The Possibility of Nuclear Reactors in Uzbekistan." I just liked this topic and I just analyzed it because it connected with the energy of Uzbekistan in the future. I analyzed it. I did I wrote a very good kind of a literature review paper, and he really liked it. So we decided to he decided to mentor me more rigorously in a research writing. And then when I wrote my research, which was called "Comparative Analysis of Fusion Fuels in nuclear reactors," I could publish it in a journal. It's not like Q1 journal. It's not the best of the best. But back then I was 15 and it was fine to me to publish it in mid-tier journal.
Fine.
After that, it so happened that he was visiting Bukhara. And then he came to Bukhara. I think that here you can put a picture of me and Professor Michael Short.
Okay, sure.
I showed him the city around and we had a very nice conversation. And at that moment, I think that our relationship kind of was solidified because he was planning to help me in admissions, which is the writing recommendation letter. Interesting thing here is that I didn't ask him. He said, "Hey,"
he suggested.
He said, "Yeah, let's do it." Like, sure, why not?
Interesting. Wow.
After that, when I got into universities, you know about the research in the USA. Should I talk about it as well?
Sure.
Yeah. So after getting into schools, he was so impressed by me that he invited me to MIT to do research with him.
Yeah.
And I'll be going to MIT to do research with Professor Michael Short or like one of his colleagues sometime during my gap year. And he also connected me with the University of Tokyo, where I'm also planning to do research sometime again during my gap year, which is a very nice thing to do during the gap year because I'll be doing research in many different fields within my subfield and then finding what I actually like and then being the best in the very niche subject. And then on top of it, we are currently having again, kind of bi-weekly or like weekly meetings, and then I'm sharing news about myself. He's coming to Uzbekistan soon, so I hope to bring him to the office as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, just one professor. There's also Dartmouth and MIT professor from Horizon Academic Research Program. Remember when I said that I wrote a research paper?
Yes.
When I published that, it was back in April, and I submitted my paper to Horizon Academic Research Program, which is one of the online research programs. When I got accepted, I again was put in this group of students with a Dartmouth professor and the MIT professor of mathematics. And there, as I said, I wrote a research paper in knot theory. So during my summer, I was also very busy. Yeah.
A few points to note here. Number one, You were lucky, but also we challenged the luck argument in a way because you were very proactive. And I think that's a very important word in admissions.
I have to talk more about it because it's freshmen who actually taught me this.
Yeah.
Like a lot.
How to reach out.
How to reach out, that I have to be resourceful.
Yes.
It was after your meeting, obviously.
Yeah, but it's not just, again, it's one way to say, oh, you need to be resourceful, right? But there are some tools of going about it. And I think now is the good time to share it because, and we can talk about freshman sort of mythology as well. There was this theory by, and freshmen obviously in admissions, our students are incredibly successful, and people had all these theories that how we achieve this, success. And obviously it's a field where out of 4.5 thousand applications from Uzbekistan, 30 get admitted. And those people who don't get admitted, oftentimes it's not because they did anything wrong, because it's just quotas and luck. And so many factors are involved in this. And people come up with all sorts of theories about like why it happens and so on and so forth. But a lot of things that we teach, they're not necessarily, we don't gatekeep information, right? We don't sort of tell you as a full support student, and you took our biggest program, which is full support. And then we have students who do smaller programs, shorter programs, and with less support. It's essentially the same information. I think that individual work is where the cost is of the work that we're doing. And as you know, there are so many hours that we put in. And it's also with whom you have those hours, right? Because you need to have hours with people who have very high alternative costs of doing this. They could be working at Deloitte, they could be working in research centers. Nigel, he basically was offered a job at a Middle Eastern Institute at National University of Singapore. He came here. So obviously alternative costs are really high, and that's why it's such big work. But talking about that method, right, of cold emailing, a big part of it is offering something to the professor.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe we want to...
This thing that I offered, it's more like implicit. Because it was a 14-year-old kid from Bukhara, a city that Professor Short really likes, a place that he knows.
No, but also you had a research paper, right?
Yeah, and then it was more like a kind of an apprentice, right? That he invested time into this guy who might be maybe sometime in the future at MIT. Unfortunately, I'm not at MIT, but it's fine.
Yeah, I think you'll be fine at Stanford. I think you'll be fine at Stanford.
But still, he could, he didn't invest like hundreds of hours or like thousands of hours, but he could assist in some way in me getting into top school and then being in the field where he also works. So he kind of nurtured like a collaborator in the future.
But see, you didn't ask him like what is nuclear physics, right? You didn't ask him some basics. You did your research, you did your work, you probably studied his research as well. And then the message that you sent, first of all, it acknowledged that, hey, I did my homework. And number two, it was a short message. We had this really interesting story at Freshman where a student reached out to 200 professors, and then he got 10 of them replied to him, 20 rejected, and then vast majority of them just ignored. And I'm like, okay, something is wrong here. It typically never happens. I looked into it. The message was like 700 words long. Then he attached a presentation, which was like 40 pages long as well. Professors are really busy. And obviously you would need to keep it short. And
not AI, because Professor Short, he specifically said that there were thousands of people who reached out to him, and his like his email basically app just said, okay, like these are all AI, right? Slop and just filter them out. And my message was one of the few. It was probably the only one which was not written by AI. And this is the biggest mistake that I see. The biggest mistake is not like writing long messages. Well, this is also one of those biggest mistakes, but the biggest mistake is AI because you're automatically rejected by the system. The system just says, okay, this is AI. It's similar to like its spam message. Let's just filter it out. And he specifically said that there were like 500 at that particular week. He received 500 messages.
500 messages.
499 of them were like AI, like slop. And
wow. And our stance on AI, right? At Freshman.
Yeah, I do not support AI.
I actually thought when ChatGPT, like the most robust model, and ChatGPT was a while was there for a while, even before 2022. But then that was the year when they released this, most impactful model. And that's where I thought that our job was done. That basically advising role, anything that's related to creative writing and writing in general was done. And I was very, very wrong. And just yesterday I had a conversation from someone at Hicksfield, which is a
AI?
yeah, exactly. And then we talked about it, and then obviously someone from Hicksfield will be very, very big on AI. And I said one thing: just ask AI to joke, and you would see why AI is not there yet. Because that's what we're doing, right? We're adding oftentimes that personal,
personal
humor, the personal sort of that and filter of experiences that only people can express. So I think AI is a phenomenal technology in the long run, but I don't know if you agree with me that right now we're sort of it's a bubble
yeah. If only I was allowed to swear, but it's fine.
You're not. You're very much not. I mean, and I mean, Vivek, I call you like the most 16-year-old that I know. It's so interesting because you're incredibly smart and intelligent, but also, and it's great that you're so young, and then sometimes that comes with with the energy, right? And we often like joke how you're walking at the office was not really walking; it's like galloping, like a little pony, basically. Yeah, and it's so interesting how simultaneously, right? You're incredibly smart. You're doing all of this like mini discoveries, but also, well, what do you think? And you want to grow up like so desperately, but I think it's a period that needs to be there. Don't you agree?
I definitely agree. I don't complain. It's fine to me. I say, but still, like there needs to be some maturity, which I need to aim for.
Yes.
Right. So I should aim for the maturity, even though I'm not entirely on the maturity level of like 30-year-old guy.
Yeah,
right?
Which you should not be.
But why? Well, exactly. I should. Well, yeah. Why should I be?
Why should you be?
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's a period for everything, and then there's a period to be free and naive, and in a good way naive.
Well, by the time this podcast
and
comes
confident.
out, by the time this podcast
you'll
comes
be more
out,
mature for
I'll be 17.
Oh, that changes everything.
I'm turning 17 on May 1st, so like
it changes everything.
It's a completely different person you're gonna see.
No, but I mean, Vic is the youngest in our office right now. And but the energy that you bring to the office is unmatched because we can be serious. We're doing all this like boring stuff, like the research, which you're doing as well.
Stuff, yeah.
And then you just gallop and then ask like some ridiculous questions. That's phenomenal, honestly. Like I'm glad that you're in. And I'll mention it here. Every year we work with some of the best students from Central Asia, right? And students who come in with something, right, with some experiences, and then they just grow so fast. And ecosystem is important, something that we could talk about as well. But also, it's an environment where people will not be looking up to you in almost like you're an icon kind of way because you got into Stanford and everything. And I think it's very, very important. Because when you are, I mean, obviously in Bukhara, there are very, very few people who achieved what you achieved. And it's very, very easy to be in an environment where people are really almost, like looking up to you in a way that is unhealthy. You know what I mean? And I think it's unhealthy to your ego as well sometimes. And I'm seeing like, I mean, I don't know if you agree with me here or not, but every year we're seeing people who worked really hard, were very, very humble, and then they get admitted to like some top school. And then suddenly there's this shift, because...
Something to mention here is that you mentioned ecosystem, and I think the ecosystem very important. If you got into top school and you remain in the same environment where like you are kind of, if you are the smartest in the room, you are in the wrong room, right?
Yes, I agree.
Well, at least in my age, I believe that like freshman is, at least in Uzbekistan, this is the best place for me to be in because this is a collection of nefers, collection of nerds, collection of people who are either as or more smart than me, right? This is something which I really appreciate in the office. This incredible being a freshman, and I hope to be humbled in every way.
It's the process, you know. That's the process, and you're actively going through that. Incredible. Okay, so we have one more thing that we wanted to discuss, which is Minecraft. And it's such an interesting thing because Minecraft is something that you mentioned very late into the admissions process. I actually never knew about it. It never popped up. And then
I just thought that
sometime like a week before deadlines, you're like, oh, I do Minecraft. Like, should I put it in my... And you put it, I think, as like number 10 or something?
No, top 6.
No, initially.
Initially it was top 10.
Yeah, because you didn't know if it was like important or not. And then can you tell us a bit more about Minecraft?
So I've been playing Minecraft before I joined school. It was back in 2014 when I was given a tablet by my parents. It was on my birthday, May 1st. I turned 5. 2014. I was still in the kindergarten, and after that, I was obsessed with Minecraft. I was playing Minecraft all day long, and I became one of those like Minecraft nerds, right? And I've been playing, as I said, for 12 years, and the Minecraft is legit the most creative game of all. You are like all the creative. You can go. You can go banana in Minecraft. Literally, you can build Freshman Academy in Minecraft. You can build Uzbekistan in Minecraft. You can build
Bukhara in Minecraft.
Bukhara, which I did. Yeah. You can build Valera like 10 times bigger using.
I don't know why you would do that, but
yeah, but you could. And there are all sorts of games. You can integrate any game that you tell me into the Minecraft. It's essentially a sandbox game.
Yeah, because
right?
you can build like a mini computer there as well. Right?
Oh, by the way, there are a lot of people who build mini computers.
Yeah,
I'm not joking.
It's like a binary
you can
system
build
there.
AI in Minecraft.
You can build AI in Minecraft.
People build AI in Minecraft.
That's incredible.
Incredible. And my project was a collaboration with one of my friends. We built Bukhara in Minecraft. So it's a Bukhara historical building. So like Minarai Kalan, different sorts of madrasas, my home, my neighborhood. We built that not in a plain replica, like it wasn't one-to-one replica. It was a kind of in different architectural styles. It was very creative. For example, Minarai Kalan, right, is a very iconic example because we built it, we made it bigger, scarier. Just like this glass Orona or like Saurona. This basically,
from
exactly. It was similar to that.
Yeah.
It was supposed to give you this vibe because when I was a kid, I was very afraid of that building. I live literally next to it, and whenever I go out, I see that building. I go to school, I see that building, and I'm like, oh wow, that's really scary. And so basically, I try to convey these emotions to the people who watch my videos, right?
Let me add a few points here, right, which I think are very important to the viewer, which is that you didn't just do Minecraft because millions of kids, tens of millions of kids are doing Minecraft, and you added some
cultural aspect,
interesting aspects to it, which is the cultural aspect that you did build Bukhara, but also it's the emotional aspect where you not only built it in your own way, right, the way you perceived it as when you were younger, but also it's almost like an art form in a sense.
I would say yes, because people who know Minecraft, there's a very interesting character called Villager. You know,
sure. Yeah, just very, very peaceful and
very peaceful. So we took his hat and placed it on top of madrasa. Madrasa. So there's a place in Bukhara called madrasa. It's a trading dome called Tukifrukhshan, basically. If you translate it from like old Bukhara, it's hats, like old like tilpak hat, and like there's a traditional Uzbek hat, which is dupa. So we put it on top of that dome, literally.
Yeah.
And then we took a head of a villager, was like this cylinder, right? Yeah. And then we put it like at the very on the very gates of those trading domes. It's like as soon as you get in, you see that face.
Interesting.
You can probably put it here. It's very interesting. So like as I said, like it's not actually just one-to-one replica. It would be too boring for us. So we incorporated something creative. Yeah. It was my friend, and obviously, playing with friends is much better than playing alone.
Yeah, and you got admitted to Brown, which is an Ivy League university, and you made a video for it. And then Brown is very clear about how the video is supposed to be. You're supposed to just put a camera, just speak to it, right?
Yeah.
And then you thought that was incredibly boring, so you made a video where a version of you speaking.
Yes, exactly, like one-to-one version of me. Yes,
right?
yes.
Tell us more about him.
I was literally in this time. I was wearing my pink, green, white shirt. Remember that one?
Yeah.
And I was wearing tie, and I was wearing traditional, basically dress on top of it. And I like literally took that version of me from the real life and put it in the Minecraft, right? And then I was talking to the Brown admission officers through like as a Minecraft character.
Yeah.
And I talked about the Minecraft project. I showed the Minecraft version of Bukhara, guided the viewers literally, and I said that, well, you know what? In Minecraft, in the real life, I always wanted to be on top of Minarai Kalan Tower. And in Minecraft, I can do that. I can literally jump from the top of the Minarai Kalan from the Minecraft. Yeah. Literally, like as a like skydiving. Yeah. And I did, and I showed that. I showed a little bit of a humor. You watched my Brown video. It was incredibly fun.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was nuts, but the perfect kind of nuts. And that's, I think, they can describe a lot of how admissions, operates. Where, now we say it, and then I'm sure that if even if we put like a thousand disclaimers, there will be people who'll be doing exactly the same.
They will do,
and it will not work anymore, right? So it works once. In admissions, things work once or twice, and then they,
just like the project, social projects. A lot of different people, like every single person has at least like one social project.
Yeah.
And many crazy people that have 4.
Yeah.
Right. And they say, okay, the more I do, the better. Right. But it's not the case.
But it works for some. See, like
for some.
Yeah, but for
again,
a small minority, right? So when you give admissions advice, you need to put like 1,000 of disclaimers because it works.
But still, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, like overall, of course, it doesn't work if you just mindlessly like launch projects. It doesn't work, as you know, as we know. But for some it works.
Minecraft is crazy. And when I talked with my Stanford admission counselor, she mentioned Minecraft. She said, "Oh, you're this kid who does research, a guy who does embroidery in Minecraft kit." I'm like, "Oh wow, you know about Minecraft?"
Minecraft kid. Let's just focus on that one. Admissions officers, for those who might not know, you're sending them thousands and thousands of words and videos and like whatever. They have only 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes less, to review your application. And they obviously would not be able to notice all the details and nuances that you're putting in your application. So overall, they have this image of you, right, that can be sort of summarized, oftentimes in nicknames and in ways of referring to people, right? And for me, a very, very good example would be we ran this free project that was funded by Akmal Paiziev with some of the leading business people in Uzbekistan, Zafar Hashimov, Amurod Nazarov, called Imkon Scholars, which is free support in admissions funded by those leaders. And there was one person who applied there, and then when she was talking to others, she would write like meow, like basically yeah. And this was like incredible. It was so like out of pocket, like it was so weird, but also weird in like an interesting way because every message from her started from that. And then we would kind of refer right to this person as sort of, that person, right? And those things that really stand out because you have thousands of applications and you do something and that's the thing. It's incredibly, it's almost impossible to fake because it was so a part of her identity and just the way that, and then we decided to admit her because it was so interesting, it was so different. And I think this is important in admissions to nurture that difference. And tying it back to the, to nerds, to NEFers, and to social pressure, that, to a certain extent, you need to be able to sustain social pressure and remain being yourself. And obviously not in everything. Like there are some things where you need to give in if they're truly destructive, but there are some things that are deeply you. And you would want to protect that, right? And I think that's incredible that you protected it. And even if some people would not want to live the kind of life that you live, which is studying and spending, and it's perfectly fine.
Something. Yeah. People saying that I wake up.
And you do. Yeah.
I wake up and I'm like, okay, research. Wake up, physics. I'm like, guys, I'm a human.
Yeah.
I'm a human after all, right?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is true. I'm literally seeing you like throughout the week. I've not seen a single other student who is spending so much on academics, and also partly because you're taking
APs. This year I'm taking 3 APs. This year I'm taking.
And even though you got admitted, you're still taking APs.
My Stanford admission counselor, she mentioned that it's
good to.
It's good to take it because for me, like obviously, I have to be prepared in STEM.
Yes.
Right for the college. But she didn't. She mentioned that it had like very little admissions value.
Yeah.
Not the scores that I got, but like this year's APs. She said that you can even drop out. I'm like, no, why? Like I have to spend time in academics. I really want to study this, and it's exactly what is going to help me in the future. So that I'm just gonna study it. Yeah. Like, even though it had very little admission benefit, I'm still studying it. So
it's fun. And APs a topic that is. Definitely controversial, but we must talk about it
SAT
because it's important for the admissions community as a whole. That what's happening right now is SAT leaks, right? In the SAT field, where oftentimes people would apply to freshman programs and they would have SAT 1500 plus, and it's difficult for them to put 2 English words together oftentimes, right? And you're like, what's going on here? It's really, really strange.
I would say that
So tell us like what's going on there.
Sure. It's leaks, SAT leaks and AP leaks. Since it's not only leaks that come from different countries.
Yeah.
It's
and
also
can
people.
we define what leaks are?
Leaks are the answers that come beforehand.
Yeah.
Answers cheating, basically.
Yeah.
Right. Cheating occurs. A person might do it on his own. He might contact people from a different country, say, "Hey, like you took the exam, send me the answers before the exam. I'm gonna learn them and then get a good
because
score."
the exam is happening in different
And
time
sometimes-
zones. Yeah, in different time zones, and that's why someone from a different time zone can send it.
Yeah, and sometimes it might be your very intimate connection to the center where you take the exam. Imagine you prepare students for the exams. And you take the exams in the same place. Yeah, obviously there's an opportunity for the corruption.
And conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
That is inevitable. And actually, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't
right?
make any
for college
sense.
board to
Imagine you prepared kids for admissions and you were admission counselor.
Yeah,
at the same time.
It's exactly the same thing.
And
there are some, of course, maybe it's not exactly but in many ways it is. Of course, there are some ways in which college board can
monitor,
and everything. But then we know that there are so many people who talked about it, and seemingly nothing is, or very few things are being done about it. And
even worse.
At least, in the case of Uzbekistan, and it's definitely something to be addressed because it undermines the whole idea of SAT, which is a tool to prepare for undergraduate academics.
Yes.
You take it away. And then what's the point if you got admitted, if you'll be suffering there? Studying, and you'll learn about it very, very soon, it's a mental challenge as well. And some people, they crumble under that pressure.
There's something I have to mention. I really like mentioning it. You probably don't like it. It's you can either be a Stanford guy or a guy at Stanford. You can represent the Stanford values and be a true Stanford student. Or you can just be the guy who luckily got admitted, or just the guy with fake application. What you're gonna do after that, right? It's you're not ready. You're not ready for the life without that university. Your life was just faking, and then getting in, and then doing what? What's the ultimate plan?
There's no the basis.
And that's what I like about freshman. That freshman prepares you not for the college, but for, I would say, life. Because if I didn't get into schools, I had a very clear plan for my gap year. Even if I didn't get in, my gap year would be full of different experiences, and I would still believe that whatever freshman offered, whatever investment I put in was worth it.
Yeah,
is worth it, right? And this is one of the best qualities of freshmen, and that's why I love freshmen so much.
I mean, thank you, and this is something that we have developed for 7 years, and as you know, I started it on my own. For the very long time, freshman was free for 2-3 years, and the problem was that it was incredibly difficult to sustain it because I needed to do most of the work, and I just didn't have the resources to hire the team members that we have right now. And now, as we have the resources, we're able to truly train. Some of the students who join freshmen, on paper, they might not be the best students. They might not have the SATs, they might not have this and that. And frankly, even when you joined, right? You were incredibly young. I had my concerns, right? Because we had.
For sure.
Do you remember our very first meeting?
I was rejected once, and then I got three.
You were rejected by freshmen?
Yeah, you rejected me, and then for a week I was.
Oh yeah. I basically said, Amirbek, I think it's just too early, and then maybe we do something else preparatory for freshman program because it's so demanding. But so people who join freshmen, they're not necessarily would you say that you had a complete application,
no,
or if you?
I would
it was
say
very raw, right? It was
very raw, but
beginning.
still there were some
there were trajectories. There were interesting potentials that needed to be developed, and this is precisely what we're doing, right? Unpacking those potentials. But and Amirbek, obviously, how I look up to you in many ways, and you remind me of the time when I was 16, 17, and just doing a lot of really cool stuff for the sake of it, not for admissions, and that's incredible. But also in Uzbekistan, it would be fair to say that there are so many students who have those same potentials in different fields. It might be arts, it might be, and then oftentimes it's broken by and it's fair to say educational system sometimes pushes us towards mathematics and this and that. Sometimes it's the family that blocks us from doing something that we're passionate about. And for me, the idea of freshmen is that there are basically Einsteins, Michael Jordans, whatever, all spread across the city. And then we just need to give them the direction, and we're losing a lot of them every year, right? A lot of incredible sports people, business people, and so on and so forth.
Entrepreneurs,
so that's a big part of the mission.
Now, one thing that I have to mention is that I was lucky to have families that I had because
Exactly.
my family supported me so much. Because my family has been doing gold embroidery for 8 generations, for 100 years, and like there's a kid, like I'm kind of the oldest kid, the oldest son basically of the entire, like I'm the oldest grandson basically, and I'm like popping up and saying I want to do nuclear physics, and they're like, yeah, sure, do that, because well, there's something that I also mentioned in the application as well, that I was afraid that I would be that my parents would not allow it, that my grandparents would not allow it, but they are like, no, you have to do that because if you really like something, you will be like one of the best in the world. And if you really like it, if you really do stuff in this field, you will definitely achieve something. But if you do stuff that you don't like, it's, well, it might not. You're just going to do it and then say, oh, why did I do it like for the last 50 years? Because my granddad, he has been doing gold embroidery for 56 years, and he doesn't regret any second doing it.
And so he's to this day so passionate about it.
He's working.
Yeah.
He's pensioner, but he still works. He still works.
Yeah.
He's 70. He turned 70. He's turning 70. Oh, we have the same birthday, so he's turning 70 as I'm turning 17.
Well, so, May 1st.
May 1st, yes.
Yeah. Such an interesting date as well.
It's what was it? It's a hardworking day.
Yeah, it's Workers' Day.
Workers' Days.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, there's some symbolism in that for sure.
Something about it as well, and that's why I'm so happy that I have families that really supported me, that was ready to invest in my education. But obviously, I had to deliver, right? Yeah. So let's say SAT, APs, right? Something that I have to mention is that I've taken SAT 2 years ago, and my SAT was 1520, and it was 2024, and I submitted this score to the universities. And I know that there are some people who are still preparing for SAT, even though their SAT is already 1510 or like 1520. They think that, okay, so the higher it is, the better. But as soon as you reach like 1520, anything higher is totally useless. I believe that it's totally useless.
Caltech, right?
Caltech, Stanford, their mean score is 1560, 1580. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like you don't see people getting.
Actually, I double checked that. I think Caltech is 1550.
1550, basically.
But still below,
around.
Right? You were below that.
You were below the 25th percentile of like Caltech of Stanford. Yeah. And well, maybe they're gonna reject me because of my SAT, but no, they didn't, because I was able to show my academic preparedness and like using APs. APs are amazing.
And research,
things.
of course.
Research.
Because again, there are many people who take APs and it doesn't result in much. And what we learned about today is that you're passionate about stuff that you're doing, and then it resonates and it's reflected not just in your extracurriculars, but also in your academics.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Look, this is the first episode, and then you'll be here for a year, right? You're taking a gap year. Unfortunately, we're limited by time, so we might need to wrap up. But I suspect that this is not the last time that we're talking in this format. I'm sure that we'll have more. And as you go through your gap year, there will be definitely more opportunities. And when you come back from MIT, we can talk about that as well. But a few words about your gap year. Why did you take it? And then what's the vision for it?
The main reason why I'm taking gap year is my age. I think that if I go to Stanford when I'm like 16, 17, I would be essentially the guy without experiences going to the place where I would be exposed to completely different culture, to people with like to absolutely brilliant people, right? And I think that I would not be ready by the time I go to Stanford, or at least I would not be as ready as I want myself to be. And I just think that during my gap year, I'll be able to develop those like social skills, develop social emotionally, and just be in many different social cases, experiences, and do stuff before going to college that many like healthy, I would say, students do. And I think that during my gap year, I want to travel around the world, go to Japan, Switzerland, see US, Australia, different basically places, get exposed to different cultures, and have my mind set to like very set, how to put it, already be in the trajectory which is going to lead me to my to what I want to do. And I think that during my gap year I'll be able to like formulate my next 4 years, or at least I would have like
sketch, basically.
Yeah, sketch, right? Because I would say, okay, so I need to do this, and I will do this at Stanford through like this like places. I would connect with these people because these are my future classmates. And as soon as I go to Stanford, I would be like, okay, so let's get to work from the day one. I would not be exploring my life, like what I want to do over the course of my life during my freshman year. I'll be doing it during my gap year, and I would be effectively and very resourcefully spending my college years.
That's definitely a smart plan, and to add here, international exposure is incredibly
Very important.
especially if coming from a very local place like Bukhara, getting exposed to such difference of ideas, because you have no clue when you're coming from the place like Samarkand, Bukhara, you study in public schools, just how different the ideas can be, how different people's attitudes, approaches to life can be. So it's definitely, and I find it incredibly interesting how intelligent is your approach to like traveling, because obviously it's quite costly to travel to all those locations, and then you plan to do research in some places, some grants, and so on and so forth.
For sure.
That's really, really, really smart. Amirbek, to wrap up today's discussion, this is a pilot version. I would want to speak with you for hours, and we'll just split it basically across several months. But what is one book that you would recommend to people?
Okay, the book that I would recommend. Well, the one that I read, it's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's something that Valera encouraged me to read because I didn't know about this book, but then I found out about this book. It's a deeply philosophical book, even though it is it has a lot of like this romance, comedy, right, science fiction. It essentially is a book about why you exist. What, like it implicitly gives you this this food to eat, right? Like
food for thought?
Yeah,
or?
food for thought. Like, why do you even exist?
Yeah.
Why do you want to do stuff? Why?
Yeah.
Right? And in the book, they essentially give you this idea of 42, that the point of life is 42, which is very abstract, right? Because it's literally the answer to why, what's the answer to life, which is 42, which is very so abstract, arbitrary, but gives you
even more questions almost.
Exactly, many more questions. Why 42? Why 42? Why not 24?
Yeah.
And it was a very nice book for me because I also learned more about science fiction. That's probably one of the best science fiction books in the world out there. And for example, I could just walk around and say, do you know about the infinity probability drive? Right? Which sounds almost like cursing, but it's just really nice ideas. And
wait, is it a real thing?
Yeah, it's real.
I got confused here.
And there's also a movie by this book, which is called exactly Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It obviously is limited by time, but book I would definitely recommend reading it. It is fun, it is engaging, and there's just so much to discuss after that book. And if anyone reads that, I would be very, very happy to discuss whatever questions you got, because I reread that twice. But it's fine.
And I mean, like, as you got help from Professor Short,
yes,
from other professors, we hope, and you're already doing it, you're passing it on to the new generations, you're helping, and something about you. And I don't know if we should tell this to the audience, to the people watching, that you're replying to basically
every single person,
message that you receive. And sometimes you are, and we talked about it, right? Like you reply in a way that is very like, you teach people about how to ask like better questions and everything.
But still, like as you receive more messages, you need to kind of experiment. But then then I talk with you, then I talk to as many people who receives those many messages. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not.
Maybe let's be a bit nicer about it.
A bit nicer about it. But still, there are a lot of guys who are just, hey, help me with admissions, or like,
what does that mean?
What does it, or like send like a, like 3,000 word message and then like huge presentation saying that this is my article. Read about it, give me your thoughts, and then maybe we can organize a call.
But again, like those are coming from younger people, and it's totally fine.
And it's really podcast. I just want to say that if you got a question, it might be better to like make it short and concise.
Yeah,
because
and Google it first.
Google it first before asking what is a nuclear physics.
Yeah,
right.
But again, asking any question is not wrong, and it's better to ask any question
than not ask it at all.
Than not ask it at all. But obviously, if you would want to get the response in a situation where a person is getting hundreds of messages daily, Amirbek, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure, and I wish you luck in your gap year. We will definitely, stay in touch. Sure. You're here working at the office, and we're looking forward to seeing you again at the podcast.
Thank you for inviting. Have a nice time.
Thank you.